Alright, Trial Mob, when it comes to Star Wars, there is only one name more synonymous with the IP than Skywalker, and that is Kenobi. Alright, Trial Mob, first today I have the 50th anniversary of Star Wars The Legacy Collection, and I'm going to be breaking down the new Obi-Wan Kenobi figure in the Clone Commander armor. If you weren't able to get yourself this figure before, this is actually an updated version using the mold and the body shape from the Clone Wars series. Not the shorts, that's what we got before. This is the actual series that we got recently with the ending of Season 7. So go ahead and tune in so we can see if really it's worth it for you. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's a reason why I'm not showing you a package, and it's because the package is already gone. You'll see what I mean. Let's get it. Alright, you guys, so this episode is sponsored to you by Load Up Freight Management. We find the loads that pay what you want going where you want. Now listen, if you've been paying attention to the trucking industry, you'll know it's a billion-dollar industry. And currently right now there's a really huge backup of work, which is the reason why we're not even seeing a lot of these guys in stores right now. So please link up with my guys at Load Up so that we can go ahead and start getting all this moving again. And we can go ahead and start finding some cool ass action figures on the streets again at our local Targets, Walmarts, and comic book shops. Load Up Freight Management. Go ahead and check in the description below for the website and link up with my guys. Alright guys, so here we have the legendary Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Star Wars Clone series, and this one specifically is not the same one that we've gotten before. The one that we got before was in fact the Star Wars Clone Wars also, but it was the armor that was reminiscent from the series back in 2004-2005 where it was the 3-minute shorts, if you guys remember that, which was, to be honest, Star Wars on fucking crack. It was one of the best shows ever. But this is more based on the Clone Wars series that we recently got, you know, that launched a few years back and that we just got that final season of, which I still love that show a lot, and I do like this look even that much more, though I wish you would have came with a cape. Now, I will say this about the packaging. It's beautiful looking. Look at that. The big clone head, the Star Wars, nice big bubble wrap. I do like this, but I kind of wish that we would have gotten the normal Black Series packaging and that maybe they just would have made it look like this. You know what I mean? Like add the coloring on it, some printing on it, whatever. Only because you guys will see in a second. I'll show you guys what the box looks like after I've broken it open, but it's not gonna hold up very well. I can't just put it back in that easily, and then it's basically, you've broken the seal. So it's gonna look messy, and it's one of the things that I hated about this old bubble wrap type stuff compared to the new inbox packaging that we have that's very easy to put back in and restore and make it look like it's brand new. But here you can't really do that. That might be good for other people, it might not, but it's not really my forte. But as you can tell, great packaging, looks really nice. We get a more realistic version of Obi-Wan in package, and then we do get that Clone Wars look right here on the side, and it does look good, and it's really cool to see kind of like what he looks like in the show, but then what we actually get in the package, which is really nice. And then on the background, we just get a nice big Star Wars The Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Lucasfilm. This is basically, I believe, their 50-year anniversary stuff that they're doing right now, which is pretty damn cool. 1971 to 2021. That's like 3 generations worth of Star Wars fandom, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. Alright you guys, so here I have the box after opening it, and as you can tell, it actually doesn't look half bad, but as you can tell, you kind of have to rip it a little bit open, and that's basically what it looks like. Some of the cardboard's ripped, some of the side paneling got taken off. So again, this is one of the things I don't like about this, because I'm probably going to end up just tossing this. DM me if you want to buy it. Hello there. Alright, so here we have Obi-Wan. Hello there. Alright, so here we have it, General fucking Kenobi. I'm going to tell you guys right now, just off the top, as soon as I open this figure, and I do this, maybe you do it too, but I take a whiff of the plastic just to see if it smells heavily like paint, and a lot of times things don't, but this right here smelled heavily like paint, which means that there was a lot of paint work used overall, and as you can tell, this is a phenomenal piece. Obi-Wan Kenobi is basically the fan favorite of the Star Wars anything, and let me go ahead and tell you, if you see this out in the wild, don't think twice. I don't care about the packaging, I don't care about none of that enough to stop me from buying it, and I know that if you don't care and you just want an Obi-Wan Kenobi, this is the figure to have. I don't even care about Asajj figure arts at this point because this is that damn good. This did come out at a higher price point, and I don't think it was just because it's the 50th anniversary. I think that they used a little more paint, a little bit more quality and QC checks overall, but this came out a phenomenal piece. So let me go ahead and give you guys a full 360. So Ewan McGregor plays this character in real life, and let me just go ahead and say the photoreal that they're using has gotten exponentially better than when they first started. This looks dead on like the actor. You know, within what a $30 price tag can get you. I don't think Asajj figure arts is going to look much better than this, other than maybe some of the glossiness, but this is a great portrayal of the figure himself. So let me go ahead and give you that full 360. The hair is done nicely. It's shaded in properly as far as I can tell. The plastic was molded fine. I think it has a nice aesthetic, and overall really lends itself to look a lot like what it would have, let's say, in this series when he was wearing this armor. And the face is done very nicely. You can see the cheekbones a little bit. You can see the nose is done perfectly fine. He has almost his cat-like whiskers to him, but I think it's done phenomenally well. The hair part down the middle looks good. The eyes look surprisingly realistic. This is a well put together head sculpt, at least a head sculpt. As we move down into the chest, as you can tell, it's mostly an all white, and it looks, I honestly can't distinguish. I think it's painted on, because if you look right below under, it looks like the under part is the same color as the robes, but that top part is all painted, and that's actually really nice. It looks super dope. I got a little bit of black right there. I might have to try to wash that off, but I mean, you know, this is what they wore into battle, so if he's not fully clean, that's okay. And as you can tell, there's a little bit of paintwork all the way throughout. It's not perfect, but for the most part, what it's supposed to encapsulate, it looks good. It has the grooves, it has everything on it. This looks definitely like what I remember seeing in the Clone Wars, and then the Republic insignia right there, done very nicely. The red pops. I think that this right here looks a little splotched. I might have to get that repainted, but for the most part, I think it does look pretty nice. And the shoulder pads duck under the tunic, and I like that. I like that they're not necessarily bulking out on either side. This is not really supposed to, and I like that they were able to fit that in the just basically in the ergonomics of the figure. Now, as we move lower into the tunic, as you can tell, the browns are done very nicely. It is the way that the plastic, from my understanding, is actually molded. This is just the color that it's molded, and it's on top of a lower body. As you can tell, it's brown. It's a darker brown than what we get on the belt, but it's done mostly nicely. I'm not going to say it's perfect, and at this price point, I've noticed that this is about as good as all the lines really get, you know, from Hasbro. But for the most part, it's where it's supposed to be. I do wish it would have been just a little bit tighter in terms of the overall quality. But I don't think it's done poorly per se. But we do get these pouches, which I don't think I ever remember seeing him actually using it. But we do have these pouches. That probably is to hold the lightsaber. Actually, you know what? Yeah, that is. We do have the piece that connects it all together. The buckle, it's colored in, and that looks nice. And then as we go lower into the tunic, it does come down all the way to the knees, which is exactly how I remember it looked. And it is split right down the middle, and just in case if you're wondering, it doesn't really get in the way of articulation too much. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it is malleable. And then for the arms, as you can tell, they're just basically clone arms, and this is like the updated clone arms. This is the clone arms that we've gotten where it's a single joint. It almost looks like a double, but it's a single joint, and I believe the legs follow the exact same new sculpt, which is again a godsend, because I like this way better than what they had before with the double jointed stuff. It looks aesthetically more clean, but it actually also works a lot better, and I'll show you guys that in the articulation. And then the lightsaber, we'll get into that later, but as you can tell, it does look pretty cool. It does look really nice. It looks different from the other blues that I've gotten before, to be honest. And then if we come up to the back, same thing. It's done very well. Tunic piece on top, over the overlay, and then the arms again. Just basically a nice clone palette all the way down into the hands. And he doesn't come with any other hands, so they're both gripping hands, which is fine with me. Though for the price point, maybe his two fingers where he's pointed out, so you can put him in his where he basically has the lightsaber over his head and his hand out pointing with two fingers. I think that would have been dope to have gotten, but you can't get it all at this price. To the legs, we have seen this again before. This is just basically the knees that we've gotten from the most recent set of the Clone Troopers, which is done very nicely. Again, this has more of that single jointed effect, which does give it way better articulation overall. But let me go ahead and actually do this. If you actually look under, I'm not sure where we've gotten these legs from. I've seen them before. If anybody can tell me what this is from. Is this from the Royal Guard? It might be from the Royal Guard. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of this is reuse. I know that the arms are reused and those knees and down are reused, but I have never seen this black like this before. But I think that's so dope. I think he looks so badass like that. He's got armor where you need it and armor where you don't, and he just looks like a total thug. I love it. So when it comes to accessories, Black Series is not known for coming with a lot of things, but they usually come with at least a weapon or you know, a gun or something. This is obviously a war show, a war movie, so we have to get something like that. So in this case, you do get Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber, and it is done really nicely. I'll admit that I really like the way this looks. The blue looks a little bit different, and the lightsaber itself, correct me if I'm wrong, is a little bit thicker than what I think we've gotten before. And I noticed that when I first saw it. I thought that looks surprisingly, the beam effect seems to be a little bit thicker than what we've gotten before. The lightsaber itself is done very nicely. It looks almost on the large side, but it looks perfectly fine on him. And this is the lightsaber that we've all grown up seeing and knowing and loving. So this has a lot of history to it. And again, it's just really nice to see a very well put together one. And then this part does disconnect from the hilt, obviously, so that you can then store it on him. I don't like doing that. It always makes it weaker. It always makes it a lot more closer to break. And 15 years ago when I was buying these, well, when my dad was buying me these, I remember I broke one of these right out the gate and we had to glue it. So I'm just gonna leave it in, but you guys can tell it does look really nice, and it would come off and then it would peg right onto him right there. Let me see if I can get it done on camera. Oh wow, it's not that easy to put it in. So yeah, it's actually a little tight, but it works, and you can move it around however you need to. Probably cut off his leg just by doing that. 3, 2, 1. All right, now while we have seen Clone Commander, Obi-Wan before in the clone armor, this one has a host of upgrades. Again, this benefits from the new articulation that we've gotten from the clones, and it's done very nicely. So let me go ahead and start from the top, and then we'll work our way down. So before I fully get into this, I just want to preface this by saying I've never owned the other version of Obi-Wan where he's armored, and I don't know the full extent of some of the articulation, but I do know more or less where the articulation is with like the elbows and the legs. So that's where I'm sure we'll see the most benefit. But when it comes to the head, it can look up. Actually, wow, holy crap. That's a very smooth joint. So he can look up about that far, and he can look down about that far. And let me just tell you, that's very smooth. It's normally not this smooth on Black Series figures, but this is actually kind of nice. It looks up and down very nicely. And then he can do obviously a full 360. I'm not gonna push it all the way around because that neck is already following it, which sucks, but it's fine. And then he does tilt a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. And actually, let me do that more. Yeah, he can literally look like he's getting socked in the face, or he's looking at you like, what the fuck did you just say, Anakin? Now, in terms of the center joint right there at the waist, I do believe, so you can do a full 360. You can go forward really far. It doesn't look that far because obviously the tunic kind of hides some of that, but it is surprisingly far, and it does go back enough to make it look like he is leaning back, so that's good. And then that's the only articulation that we get in that mid rift. For the shoulders, we do get, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get under it. Wow. Let me see if I can just go through the top. So he does have that the new shoulder pads where they kind of, they're only connected from the bottom. And so they're this rubbery stuff that you can then do this with. Now that doesn't look necessarily correct, but that's just to go and show you if you can get it to hide under it. He does do a phenomenal T-pose. Absolutely no problem. But again, you'd have to put the shoulder armor probably over the tunic, which probably isn't necessarily aesthetically as pleasing if you can get it under. I'm gonna have to fucking play with that. But even without it, it still goes up enough to show that there is articulation in there. And if it bunches up, you're just gonna have to watch out with that. I'm probably not gonna do that too often, and I'll probably just make the sacrifice and put the shoulder armor over the tunic, since, you know, in battle maybe that's how it would really look like. But for the most part, again, it is a nice look, a nice aesthetic overall. No upper bicep swivel, but we do get the new single jointed arms, and you get past 90 degrees. The old armor only got you to about 90, and it wasn't even really a real 90 degrees. This gets you absolutely past 90 degrees, no problem, which is really nice. And then when we come down to the hand itself, I really like that they gave us the gun grip. On a sword, you should always have a gun grip. I know that it sounds a little weird, but every single figure that you can basically put the sword in and have it pointed out like this, it's a phenomenal look. It always looks really nice. So we get that on that side, and then on the other arm it's the exact same way, but here we do get that push-up joint, which is fine with me. If you're grabbing something, you can go about that far down and it hits right there because of the armor, but it does go just a little bit back, just enough. Now when it does come to the legs, he does kick forward about 90 degrees. I'll say that's like 89 degrees. It's close enough. And you can move the tunic slightly out of the way, but he does kick about as far as a character with this kind of armor would. Same thing with the other leg, and he does kick out perfectly fine enough to basically do the splits, so that's good. And then this is the single jointed knees, which does allow you to go past 90 degrees, no problem. Is it less than what it might have been before? Maybe. I'm not quite sure, but this is pretty good. This gets you pretty far back, which I do like. And then it can kick down basically about that far, which is enough. It could be more, but it's enough. And then I didn't notice this before, but these feet have ankle swivels, ankle pivots, and you can go really far in either direction. And then it does go up just enough to make it look like he's landing. Actually, that's pretty good. I think it goes forward a lot better than it does backwards, so that's pretty good. So obviously this Obi-Wan Kenobi in terms of articulation is fantastic. Everything does a very, very nice looking piece, and all the articulation overall does a fantastic job, at least for me, definitely in comparison to what we got before with the old one. I've seen videos and the articulation just is not executed properly, but here this is definitely befitting of a Jedi of this stature, of this magnitude, right? And so you can get him in a lot of poses. So the articulation is phenomenal, and the paintwork itself is done very well. All right, so regardless of which Obi-Wan Kenobi you end up getting in terms of the armored one, I think you should pick one up anyway. I almost picked up the last one at a premium because it's just a really cool look, and you know, you don't get any of these Jedi Knights in this armor packet, and I really wish that we got all of them in the Clone Wars armor. I think it's where they look the best. They look a lot like basically the Knights of the Old Republic style, and I think it's one of the best looks for them because they don't just look like some monks, they look like some legit soldiers and warriors, and that's really what they end up becoming. Now, personally, I think regardless of which Obi-Wan you want to get, you should get one. This armored look is something that we don't get enough of, and to be honest, I'm still considering buying a few of the older one, and potentially just removing the Obi-Wan Kenobi head and adding the Jedi heads of other figures, because in the Clone Wars they all basically had the same overall armored look. It was the exact same armor, suit, and setup, and it was really, really cool looking. I'm telling you, they had some of the most badass armors, and I wish we would have had an opportunity to see them all in it. I think it would have been a great look. So I think you should pick them up, but if you do have the opportunity to grab this one's definitely the upgraded one. It's also different, it's also unique, so you can't really be removing the head of this one and put others that you want on there, because it's not the way they look like in the show. But if you decide to do that, that's on you, obviously. But I think it's an overall really nice figure that we're getting here for the money with the updated clone articulation. I mean, look at that. Why isn't this the way that every single Jedi comes with? I definitely love this way more. If you've bought some of the other ones from the original movies, you'll immediately notice. If you look at some of the older Jedis that we've gotten before, you'll quickly notice that because they have those long sleeves, those like monk sleeves that they have, their articulation, because that part isn't soft, their articulation isn't done all that well, because you can't really get them to hold the lightsabers with this kind of finesse. And unless they start giving us, you know, proper tunics under where we can move the wrist around more, we're never going to get this level of articulation. And I would really like for us to see this armor spread about to the rest of them. Maybe for their 51st anniversary, they'll do all of the original Jedi, but in this armor set that we know that they did wear during the series. And I think it's not even a thing about budget. Everybody would buy that. I would buy that. They would sell out. It would be a moneymaker for them. So I do hope that they consider that. And Hasbro, if you are listening, take this kind of armor set, the clone armor set, and put it on all your Jedi and sell it to us. I would buy them all. Alright, and of course I can't be doing a Black Series review without some size comparisons to other lines and other figures that we've already gotten, and I'm going to start off with the one that I know everybody wants to see. General Kenobi! Alright, so that was a terrible Grievous impression, but I haven't heard the fucking movie in forever, but here we have him next to the Black Series General Grievous, and as you can tell, he towers him. So let's go ahead and do a little step back. Let me see if I can get the camera correct. So yeah, he definitely towers him, and this looks phenomenal. I love this so much. General Grievous is one of my favorite characters, and while they didn't necessarily do him justice in the Clone Wars, after the Clone Wars movie that came out, the animated movie, he was a thing of nightmares in the original 2003 2004 miniseries. He was just every single thing that could have been the scariest kind of fighter to deal with in the Star Wars universe. But again, he is a phenomenal looking piece anyway, and I haven't done a review on him, but I do need to do that. But he looks perfectly sized next to his Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I don't know why, but he seems to look bigger in camera than he does in person, but the size difference is perfectly fine. Let me actually put them back to back so you guys can see that. So you guys can see the sizing is pretty big. Alright, and here we have him next to Count Dooku, and as you can tell, he is supposed to be taller than him, so this does look pretty good. This does scale very well, actually. I don't remember how tall Count Dooku, what their difference in height is in real life, but I think this is perfect. He definitely looks a little taller, definitely has a regal look to him the same way that Obi-Wan does, and I think that this is going to be nice in a diorama. If you have them fighting each other, whatever the case may be, you're going to really enjoy how well they've sized this Obi-Wan compared to some of the other figures that they've done a good job with so far. Alright, and here we have Asajj Ventress, and let me just go ahead and tell you right now, I haven't done a review on her just yet, but goddamn, she is one of the best Black Series figures we've gotten to date, period. I want to do a full review for you guys, and I will probably do that pretty soon. But let me just tell you right now, God, she is such a dope character in the show, and her figure is just insanely phenomenal. Go out and buy her. I'll give you the review later, but in the meantime, I think this looks perfect. She is a shorter, smaller figure, and of course she has no armor on her right now, but it looks good. This looks phenomenal. You're going to be able to make up your diorama, do whatever you're going to do in photos. This is going to look just perfect. This scaling of Black Series has been something that as of yet hasn't been an issue to me personally. Maybe some of the Bad Batch feel a little on the large side, but other than that, these guys pose up so well, unlike some of the McFarlane bullshit that we get. Alright, and here we have Crosshairs from the Bad Batch, and this is where I mean the sizing's a bit weird. I'm not quite sure how big they are or aren't supposed to be, and that helmet is fairly big, but for the most part, I guess Obi-Wan is a little on the smaller side. Once we see Anakin, who is supposed to be taller, we'll get a better understanding of how the sizing should be, but I could see this. I don't quite ever remember seeing them standing directly next to Obi-Wan, so I couldn't tell you how tall nor how small they're supposed to be, but I think this looks perfectly fine, and they have the exact same aesthetic to them, this exact same everything. That they have the exact same shoes, actually. Let me show you guys that. Yeah, it's the same feet. So for me, I think it's going to come down to the fact that these are two very nice figures, and they're going to look good in your diorama, and they look like they're obviously from the exact same series, so that's absolutely no problem. But just this looks really badass. I actually do hope we get some kind of maybe this armor of Obi-Wan, but darkened, not so much like Anakin's, but more like what we get from the Elite Troopers, which I'll have to show you guys on another review. And here we have him next to Bo-Katan, and oh my god, the memories that this brings back by having both of these guys next to each other. There's a lot that goes on in the story, and I'm not going to ruin it for you guys if you haven't watched it. Just watch season 6 and season 7 of the Clone Wars, and there is a lot that goes on here, and these look great, honestly. I understand that they're from 2 different series, right? The one is based off of a real show, the other one is based off of a cartoon, but I think this looks phenomenal together. And actually, just to give you that extra look, there she is next to him, and yeah, this is a good version of Ewan McGregor, and this is a good version of Katie Sackhoff. This works perfectly fine. This looks great, and of course she's rocking her fucking Darksaber, so make them dual, whatever you want. This is a great sizing. I'll look up how tall they are in real life, but I'm sure that this isn't perfect, but the scaling is right. She is supposed to be smaller, and she is. Alright, you guys, and here we have the Heavy Commando Mando from the Asajj Figure Arts line, and let me be 100% honest with you. No matter how good these figures get at a $30 price point, a $70 or $80 price point is always going to be a better figure overall. And yes, of course, this Mando looks just insane, and I do want to do a review for you guys eventually. I haven't delved into some of the more harder reviews other than that Grievous the Bounty Hunter I did. But I eventually want to get into more Asajj Figure Arts stuff too. But I still think this looks good. I still think in a diorama in your photos, there's enough here that it's familiar, and you'll be able to take photos and pose them together, and it's not that big of an issue. But obviously they don't look like they're from the same level of figure. The one on the right obviously looks different, but sizing wise, this is about correct. He would be shorter than Grievous, but probably, you know, a few inches taller than fucking Darth Sidious, or excuse me, Darth Tyrannus. So, you know, it's just something for you to consider, but I think overall this sizing is going to be about right. Alright, and now here we have him next to Major Blood, and obviously, you know, G.I. Joe is a different line. As you can tell, Major Blood is the slightest bit taller, which is actually kind of funny because he's one of the smaller characters from G.I. Joe, but at the same time, Black Series does make their stuff, I want to say, a little bit on the tighter side, and G.I. Joe is a little bit on the larger side. But as you can tell, completely different aesthetic. I think this is going to look fairly different. They're going to look obviously like they're not from the same line, though they are the same Hasbro, a lot of the same plastics, even similar articulation. But again, you do what you want to do. This is just more for sizing, just so you can see how they add up. And then here we have Beachhead, and as you can tell, even he's bigger than Obi-Wan, even without the beret. His head still comes up slightly taller. So again, this is definitely scaled in a different manner. They're both technically 6-inch, but obviously G.I. Joe is like 6¼ inch, and then, you know, Star Wars, the Black Series, seems to be like 5.75 inch, you know, so they're not exactly to scale. But I don't think they look bad in general, but just aesthetically speaking, they're not from the same universe, and it's obvious. If anything, Major Blood looked a little bit more keen to this. Alright guys, so it is obvious that this Obi-Wan figure is cut above its class. It's got good articulation, good updated articulation, a phenomenal head sculpt. This could come out of an Asajj Figure Arts, and I'd believe it. It's done very well. Everything is done to a certain degree that I think makes it very worth buying, but even more importantly, just having it a part of your collection at any real cost. I think that it's not a problem if you're going to pay more for this. It hasn't been all that easy to find. I sadly was going to purchase this in Echo, but I only had cash on me. I didn't have my card on me, so I was only able to buy this one. So maybe I'll be able to get an Echo, maybe I won't. But I think that this is definitely something you should try to get, because this is one of the best versions of a Jedi that the Black Series has put out. Hasbro, if you are listening, you need to take this buck, you need to make a couple adjustments to it, and add all the figures that you can think of and that you currently own. Kit Fisto, fucking Samuel L. Jackson's character, Mace Windu. I mean, whoever you guys want to do, it doesn't matter. Just put it on this buck, sell it, and we will buy it. I can tell you that this is the best form factor for a Jedi that we should have gotten from the jump, and I don't understand why we didn't, through the Black Series. But since you guys are beginning to revisit some of this Clone Wars stuff, I think you guys definitely need to give us everybody else that you can think of and that you're willing to add from the list that you have in this form factor, because I think everybody would be willing to just run out and buy it because it's just so good. It doesn't even matter whether it's a random Jedi. You can make the custom things that you want to do about it to sell to us, and we would buy because it's that good. So just by looking at this one pose, you can tell that this is one of the best figures that we've gotten in terms of the Jedi. Nothing else beats this, and obviously you can get the same kind of articulation in any of the clone troopers, to be honest. Well, actually, no, not really, because this does have those black underlays, as you can tell. That does allow him to get more tighter articulation in terms of not needing to twist the leg in any kind of direction to get this. But look how phenomenal this looks. He looks great. He just looks like a total badass, and I know you're gonna want him when you do buy him. So guys, he is available currently at Target, and it has been a fairly widespread release. I think it's an exclusive, so you're just gonna have to go out there and see what you can find. But I think that this one for sure, and most likely the Anakin, even though he looks like Anakin with mumps, because that face sculpt is horrific, but at least here in this one with Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor looks incredible, and this is a piece that you don't want to miss out on. Buy it. Go out of your way to do it, but get it, because this is going to be the one that when you watch reviews, that when you see your friends have it and you hold it in hand, you're going to go, fuck, I should have bought this one. So if you guys did like this review, please give me a like, a comment, and subscribe. Please let me know if there's anything I could have done better for you guys, as I'm still refining my processes. This was a phenomenal piece that I was very happy to show you guys, and I'm still looking for the Anakin, the Echo, and apparently there's an ARC Trooper I didn't fucking know about. So if you guys do have that up for trade or for sale, please let me know. He's the one that looks like Echo but with red armor. I really would like to buy it, and I don't really know how to get it because I didn't find it on eBay. Maybe I need to look it up, but the point is the same, that I do have a lot more stuff coming for you guys and a lot more content, and I would like for you guys to be a part of that. So trial mob, show this to your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, really join up with this trial mob that I have going on here, and go ahead and watch me for my next couple reviews that I will be coming out with soon. All right, this was a TBG feature, and I will see you guys on the later. Deuces.